Hey everyone, Ryan Young. And this is kind of an off-topic thing that I wanted to cover because it's kind of the issue du jour today, right? The issue of the day. Well, it was as of yesterday, I think. And this is this whole GameStop thing. So some of you may understand this, some of you may not, but I'm sure everyone has heard about it. So basically what happened is there's a company called GameStop, which we all know. It's, it's a little store that it's a chain of stores, and they were the biggest store that sold games and stuff to all my kids and all that kind of stuff, and you and all that. And so what happened was, over the years, the last couple of years, the delivery of games have gone from you going into the store and buying the physical game to you just getting it downloaded to your game console. So GameStop is having trouble. They haven't made the switch or whatever, going from the physical delivery of the game to the electronic delivery of the game. Kind of like what happens in people who are old like me. You remember Blockbuster Video and Hollywood Video. So Blockbuster Video, they were a store. You'd go in, you'd rent videos, and same with Hollywood Video. The Hollywood Video founder, though, he actually was smart about it. He cashed out and walked away with his billions of dollars, and now he's got a new venture that actually happens pretty locally to me here. But Blockbuster, they did not make that change. And in fact, when Netflix first came on, they used to mail DVDs to us. If you're a member, I don't know what it was, $10 a month, you can get DVDs mailed to you, watch the DVD, put it back in the envelope they give you, and send it back. And they were smart about it in the way they did it. In fact, they even wanted to get out. They thought, I've got this great thing, this DVD by mail, versus you having to drive over to Blockbuster to get your DVD. And the founder of Netflix actually tried to sell the business to Blockbuster. The CEO of Blockbuster basically told him to pound sand, and we know where Netflix is today, and we know where Blockbuster is today. So anyway, that was for video rentals. Now you have the modern day Blockbuster is GameStop. So GameStop, they're having trouble making the transition to the virtual, business, and are still kind of in this brick and mortar thing. Brick and mortar really is what a store is made out of, right? Just that's the term for a store. And they're not able to make the change. So what you have these analysts, financial analysts, they go and do the forensic accounting on a company like this. They go back and they look through the federal filings, because that's where the books, so to speak, have to be published in truth, according to regulations. And they find that GameStop is a business that's probably going to go out of business soon. And the stock probably got below $10. I haven't looked at the stock really. Don't really care, but so that's what happened. And I guess there's a hedge fund, Melvin Capital, and what this hedge fund did, by the way, a hedge fund is simply a bucket of money that's managed by a general partner, and this general partner then can buy and sell stocks, they can do futures, they can do whatever they want. So a famous one that we all heard of is a guy named George, right? We'll just use his first name. And there's also other ones, famous ones back from when I was in the business, Julian Robertson, Michael Steinhardt, Paul Tudor Jones. These are all famous people who manage hedge funds, and I worked for 3 of them in my earlier years, so I kind of understand what's been going on here. So Melvin Capital, they sell short GameStop. So basically they're betting it's going to go down. I'll explain to you in a second how this works in real life examples, but they're betting it's going to go down, and apparently they might have made their position in the stock public, which was a bad mistake. Typically, when you're an investor, if you're a heavy investor like a Melvin Capital or any other large hedge fund, you kind of don't want to let your positions be known in the markets until you're done with them. And but sometimes you get a little cocky and you think to yourself, what, I'm a big player in this field. If people hear and see what I'm doing, then let me get in and I'll tell everybody what I'm doing, and they'll all jump in and make what I want happen at an accelerated rate. So that's what they did. They apparently let it be known through various channels. I don't know if they went public with it. Said that they're short GameStop, thinking everybody's going to pile on and sell the stock short and make it go down to zero, in which case they've made their return. So let's kind of back up and let me kind of explain to you what short selling is in real terms. Let's use automobiles. So let's say you and I are good friends, and you decide that, hey, you know what, I'm going to have to go on a trip, and I'm going to be gone for a year. And I've got a car that Ryan can you hold on to it for me, right? It's a car that I really like. It's a Toyota Land Cruiser, right? I'll just use that one because there's kind of a cult following for it. So I've got this Toyota Land Cruiser that I don't want to sell it. I just want you to keep it for me. You can use it all you want, but I want you to keep it. I'll be gone for a year, and I come back, I'll pick my truck up from you. So I'm like, okay, fine. So he leaves, goes on his trip, and now I have his Land Cruiser. And now I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, you know what? These Land Cruisers, they're old. They've got hundreds of thousands of miles on them, and they're overpriced, right? People are spending 10, 20, 30 grand for a 25-year-old Land Cruiser that's got rust on it and stuff. So what I'm going to do is I think they're going to go down in value. So what I'll do is I'll sell his Land Cruiser to somebody for the current price. Let's say it's worth $20,000. I'll sell it for $20,000. And what I'll do is, right before he comes back a year from now, I'll buy another one just like it, and I'll replace it, and I'll give him back the Land Cruiser. Because I think in a year, these Land Cruisers will be worth only $10,000. So if I sell his car without him knowing for $20,000, and then right before he comes back, I go and get another one, I just buy one off of the used car market for $10,000, I can give him back his Land Cruiser, and I'll keep the $10,000 difference. So basically, I borrowed it from him, sold it to somebody else, and got another one to replace it. That's what selling short is, right? If you understand that, then that's really what's going on with GameStop. So now here's the risk to it. You know, there's a gain and the risk. So the gain is that the value of the Land Cruisers go to zero. Right. So let's say all of a sudden you know nobody wants a Land Cruiser, nobody's willing to pay even $1 for it. I sold my friend's one for $20,000, right? I can pick one up for free, theoretically speaking, and just give it back to him. So he gets his Land Cruiser back, and I pocket $20,000, right? That's 100% return. On the other hand, what if it goes against me? And here's the risk. That $20,000 Land Cruiser, it's not only worth $20,000 a year from now, it's worth $100,000. Why? Because Toyota doesn't make them anymore. Let's say they're not going to be building anymore going forward, and they're not actually. I think next year they're not going to make the Land Cruiser. So you can't get them. And it almost gets to a point where the old ones have now gone to the junkyard, scrapyard, whatever, and the ones that are remaining, they're in high demand. So this Land Cruiser that I borrowed from my friend and sold off on the market to try to replace back later because I thought it'd get down to $10,000 is now worth $100,000. I don't have $100,000, right? And even if I did have $100,000, nobody's willing to sell it. And in fact, other people are trying to buy the Land Cruiser, driving it up every day. It goes up $1,000, $2,000. So 30 days from now, it might be $200,000. That is exactly what happened to GameStop stock. So Melvin Capital borrowed a ton of shares. In fact, they borrowed, the amount of shares that were borrowed were more than what is on the market, what is available, right? Imagine borrowing more Land Cruisers than there are able to buy. Well, that's what they can do with stocks, because stocks are virtual these days. They're not actual pieces of paper. Stock certificates go back and forth. It's virtual. So they can kind of play with it a little bit and end up having more shares that are borrowed and sold than actually exist. And that's where the other problem comes in. Melvin Capital went ahead and shorted a stock that was illiquid, and that it was kind of gained a little bit. But, being that they're billionaires, they're thinking to themselves, you know what? We'll make it all work, and we'll end up, just messing with the GameStop people. Well, unbeknownst to the GameStop people, maybe, or to Melvin Capital, there's this little mini revolt going on that happened off of the 4chan board and off of Reddit, the subreddit, Wall Street Bets, I think what it is. And they got millions of people, if not just simply hundreds of thousands of people, to go and buy GameStop stock. Well, when you buy it, you now drive it up in price. And this Melvin Capital, as the stock goes up in price, they're thinking, their conviction is strong. This company is a fraud. They do not deserve to have this multi-billion-dollar valuation. They deserve to be zero. So I'm going to try and borrow more shares and sell more. So they averaged down, meaning they're down on their investment, and they went deeper and deeper and deeper down. They didn't cut their loss, they went deeper down. And by doing that, the individuals who are buying these shares, they just keep buying and buying and buying and buying and driving the price up to an astronomical level. And it got to a point where Melvin Capital's losses were so great on paper that their brokerage house, or their custodian that holds all their assets, said, you literally have no value left in your entire portfolio. So Melvin Capital got a bailout from another hedge fund or billionaire or whoever to kind of shore up their finances, only to have the stock continue to go up, and they're even more negative now. So they're filing for bankruptcy. Now, the reason why it happened partly is due to arrogance, but also partly due to the fact that there were no shares available for them to buy back, right? No more Toyota Land Cruisers on the market for them to buy to give to their friend, right? So since there's nothing, what can they do? They can't close their position out. And here is the flip side of selling short. Like I mentioned earlier, your Land Cruiser that you sold for $20,000 all of a sudden is worth nothing. You made a 100% return. But if you got $20,000 for that Land Cruiser, is now worth $100,000. That Land Cruiser is now worth 5 times what it was. So you now have a 500% loss, right? So the risk in short selling is that your risk of loss is infinite, but your risk of gain is only a max of 100%, and that's if GameStop were to go into bankruptcy. So what's been going on are the individuals who think and see and feel that they've been kind of wronged by Wall Street. You know, Wall Street is just a general term meaning brokerage firms and investment banks and hedge funds and that type of stuff. You know, feel that the individuals have been wronged by the elite, right? Which is kind of what, you know, it's kind of a microcosm for what's going on in the world, right? You have, you know, the elite Wall Street bankers that have always kind of owned and run the business. And who knows, maybe they still will going forward. But now you see how a revolt in the financial markets has worked against the elite. Now, for you individuals who are playing with GameStop stock, just know that what's going on right now is a mania. You need to be careful, right? Now, why do I say need to be careful? Because just as quickly as the stock went up, the stock can go down. Because if the company doesn't have any reason to be worth that much, eventually the company will be worth what it's truly worth, which, who knows, it could be zero. I don't know. Hopefully, the major shareholders in GameStop, presumably the company, will find a way to take advantage of this situation, maybe selling stock into the market, which would also possibly bring the shares down, right? Because if there are no stock available to have, GameStop could simply file to create an additional 20 million shares, throw it onto the market, sell it to everybody who's wanting it. Eventually, there'll be no more people left to buy because everybody who's wanted to buy GameStop stock has already bought it. In which case, there's no more support to hold the stock up, in which case the stock will then start to go down. It'll seek its true level, right? It'll be where it's supposed to be. Who knows where that is? And maybe then GameStop can then use that money to either buy into a business that will help them to expand into the virtual delivery, or they'll, who knows, I have no idea. But the little man, the little investor, has typically been left holding the bag throughout all these years on Wall Street, right? You know, you're investing and stuff. You know, people get in, they get in at the very top, and boom, the stock gets thrown down. They end up selling at a loss and go, man, I'll never be in the stock market again, right? So then we tell you, okay, you need to take a long-term approach, which is generally true. But every once in a while, you have these moves in stocks like GameStop. This is not fundamentally driven. Now, what does that mean? There's no real rational reason for doing it. There is a reason, though, and I just explained it to you. So if you are not all that sophisticated when it comes to investing and you want to play with fire, just let you know that you could be burned. And in fact, there will be people that will be burned because this is simply a mania. Now, for more information on manias, read a book called The Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds. I think that's what it's called. And what they did was they actually went over what happened with the tulip mania in Denmark and in Europe back in like the, I don't know, 1400s or something like that, where tulips became the most valuable commodity in the known world. And people were betting everything on tulips, and that's what we call tulip mania. And that kind of explains how things get when it comes to any kind of investing, right? And the people who are the latest or the least sophisticated of us will get in at the very top. The sophisticated of us will get out and sell it to them gladly, at which point the value goes down. But the whole significance of this GameStop thing is that the average Joe got together and went up against the elite and destroyed the elite. This Melvin Capital in particular. So that's why this story is so kind of fascinating here. That it fascinates me, because that's the business I was in prior to running Kama Jiu-Jitsu, right? So, because that's what I did for 25 years. In fact, my Jiu-Jitsu journey and my career kind of did this, and now I stopped doing the investing thing about 3-4 years ago. And now I just, like to train, like to work with you, like to teach you guys, like to talk to you guys. So I hope this kind of gives you an idea of what's going on and help to at least answer some of these questions for you. So this is kind of good for the little guy, but just watch out, and I don't want you guys to get burned. But it's kind of fun, isn't it? Anyway, take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.